Hey, hi, hello. I'm Allie. I've been a lifelong reader, I work in a library, and I've been a bookish content creator for the past several years, and this is my home library. I thought I would do a bit of an updated tour of different aspects of my library, things that have worked for me, things that haven't, and just kind of walking you through what it's like in here. So let's get into it. I have to talk about aesthetic things. I had a very particular feel and scheme in mind when I was creating my home library, and most books don't come in the colors that you need them to all the time. So instead, I really wanted something a little bit more muted, and I covered a lot of my books in painter's paper. And this has been one of the most polarizing things I feel like I've done with my shelves. It was very time consuming. A lot of people hate it, which is fine because I'm the one who looks at these shelves every single day, and I personally love it. They've been like this for the past 3 years, I believe, and I don't plan on stopping. I just really like the way that it looks. One thing I also really love is adding knickknacks to my shelves. I think it's a great way of adding character and personality to bookshelves. So a lot of my stuff that is on my shelves is either Halloween decor or yard sale finds. I do have floor-to-ceiling, wall-to-wall shelves on one wall in my library. And then I also have a corner shelf that has other stuff on it. And then I also have my desk, which is also shelves. And then I have 2 book carts. So let's talk about the organization of all those things. I originally had set together this version of these shelves. I had done them in alphabetical by title, and I just was finding that I was having a really hard time reading from my own collection. So I'm a mood reader. I decided a few months back that I was going to reorganize by genre, which is much better for me. I rarely remember the title name. I rarely remember an author name. So this has been much better for me in realizing what I want to read off of my shelves. A lot of times I stand in front of my shelves and wait for like a title to really stick out, and by doing it by genre, by what I'm in the mood for, has really helped. The very top shelf are like classics, I would call them, a lot of YA classics. So like The Hunger Games, Twilight, I have The Vampire Diaries, and then I also have Goosebumps, which I have read all 62 of the originals. So these are like ones that are nostalgic to me and I don't really want to get rid of. So I keep them up here because they're not things I'm going to access very frequently. Now as for these shelves, everything here is fantasy to some degree. I kind of have a little bit of a method for the fantasy, but not by much. We have mythology, tends to run along this shelf. Historical fantasy on this shelf, which kind of runs a little bit into this. We have some like dark academia fantasy. I also just have like more adult fantasy on this shelf. I have kind of YA. Then we have sci-fi, kind of more specific sci-fi. At the very bottom, I do have my Cassandra Clare collection, and then I also have my book sleeves and stuff, and just some like extra storage. Really hard to fit all these in. I have Circe on display because I absolutely love that book, as well as The Historian, 2 books that I just absolutely adore, 5 out of 5 star reads. Then we have my beautiful begonia. This is a polka dot begonia, and I can't keep them alive in dirt, but I can do it in water. So here it is. Here is where it lives. This room doesn't get a ton of sunlight, and it seems to like that. Just got this beautiful Fairy Loot edition of The Adventures of Amina al-Sirafi, which I have on display because I think it's gorgeous and I love pirate books, and it's one that I really want to read this year. Favorite things on this shelf is this candle holder from Bath & Body Works. It's so stunning. I love it. I love the Victorian vibes. It was way too expensive for what it was, but I still love it. Welcome to the floor. I'm gonna give you a quick tour of my TBR cart. I have a to read, a to haul, and to return shelf. A lot of people are very concerned about the return shelf. People think that I'm buying books, reading them, and then returning them, and that's not the case. I am a major library user. I've had a ton of people ask me where I got these, and I just made them on my Cricut. So these are books that I want to get to fairly soon, and then also books that I need to haul because I like doing haul videos. So I tend to gather them here. It also works because a lot of times I have my library books that I also gather, and then yeah. So this lives in this corner and I look at it every single day. This top shelf are all series that I have loved and collected and things that I don't really reach for that often just because I've already read them and just really wanted to keep them all in one place, so I can tend to just leave those up there. These shelves are definitely more categorized by genre. So we have romance as well as like adult, and then YA, and then I have more of like contemporary. Then we move into things that are more literary fiction, and then I have historical fiction after that. I have more of like my horror into thriller into like mystery, and then at the bottom I have classics. Some like at the very bottom that are like overstock like special edition books and whatnot just because they're a little hard to fit in everywhere else, and I also don't want to cover them, and a lot of them the pages are sprayed so they stick out a lot. I should mention you'll see a lot of books that are also backwards, and that those are books that I've read. I wanted a way to visually see books that I have read or not read, so that is a great way for me to notice what still needs to be read. There are a few that are the exception to the rule just because they either look nice or something, but for the most part, anything that's turned backwards are books that are read. Pretty easy to see looking at this collection that I don't tend to buy a lot of certain genres, but if I really love a book, I will end up buying it. So like the romance section, I've read most of those, but they're ones that I like had probably read ahead of time, that I have sections that are much more read from, but it's because I have a much smaller sampling of them, whereas things like mystery and thriller, I tend to buy them because they sound interesting ahead of time, and same with fantasy, whereas some of the other stuff I tend to buy if I really enjoy it. Most of the books on display in this section are more for aesthetic purposes, not necessarily because I love them or because I've read them. I have a collection of my Dear America books that I've been working on, and I just think that they look really nice on the shelf. You have this like vintage edition of Little Women, which I came across in like someone was throwing away. And so I was like, I'm gonna take that and just use it as display purposes. I think it's a really cool cover. I also have my prized spider book. I know everyone like hates spiders, but I love them so much, so I tend to have a lot of spider stuff in this room as well. This shelf over here doesn't get seen a whole lot. It tends to be used as storage a good bit, so I have like electronic storage and bookmarks and stuff. I have stationery storage, but I do keep some of my other kind of collections together. Shelf here is a lot of my non-fiction, so I wanted to keep that all in one place. I also have my novellas here because when I want those like flash stories, I'm gonna want to find them in one place. I also have my Chuck Palahniuk collection here just because I have so many of them and I wanted to keep those together. I do also have my comics and stuff here. I don't own a ton of them, even though I'm a big reader of graphic novels, just because they are a little bit more expensive to own. And then I keep my anthologies here as well, because I love them. I also keep my overflow of Fairy Loot books here, even more Fairy Loot books and special editions that I've gotten over the years. So this is more overflow. I have one other book card over here, and it's just books that I place my wrap-up books, like books that I need to talk about that I finished reading for the month. I used to keep stuff for like vlogs and discussion videos, but now this has just become storage for like books maybe I will read for a vlog, and then their covers to put them back on when I'm done. And then at the bottom just tends to be electronical stuff that I need. So this is my custom-made desk. I did do a whole video on this at one point, but these are mostly Fairy Loot editions, special editions. They are fantasy series that I've either read and enjoyed, or ones that I feel like I'm going to end up really enjoying. It also works as storage for a lot of old textbooks, old decor pieces that I'm not currently using, journaling stuff. I have my tarot cards. I keep some of my favorites up here, and then Babel just because it's pretty. Custom made bookshelf desk. It's very deep, it's very nice to work at, and it's on wheels, so I can just move it out of the way if I need to. These are like my favorite editions of books that have ever been made, and it's the We Hunt the Flame series, and then also Kingdom of the Wicked series. I don't know if those are the series names, but I think that these are some of the most stunning editions that have ever existed. I had these in their boxes recently. This is a reading journal, and this is just like a notebook, and they are so stunning, so I kind of just like leave them on display because they're just so beautiful. I don't really talk about this middle section a whole lot because it's mostly just decor, just things that I find interesting, ambience videos and stuff when I'm reading in here. So it's mostly just a place to show off like my weird stuff. Then down there, besides Frankie, we have, this is like an overflow of books that I haven't put anywhere, and then we have like my D and F books that need to be unhauled, and then just more decor. And then the doggo. My reading corner, I do sit here all the time and read. I love reading here. It's one of my favorite places. I get up in the morning and I come sit here with my coffee and just look at all of this. Another question that I get asked all the time is about where my shelves are from. These were custom made shelves by my stepdad. He also made the desk as well. I basically gave him what I wanted and he produced them for me. Honestly, these were probably cheaper than buying a bunch of bookshelves and creating build-ins. They're just, I want to say they're 2x10s or 2x12s. I can't remember what width we went with because I didn't want too much sticking out. It is a fairly small room. And then the ladder was also custom made, and I do believe that the track that it runs on are like barn door tracks. It is a working ladder. Everyone is always like, why do you have a ladder? You don't need a ladder of a library of this size. It's because I'm small. I'm a very small bean. That's been a little bit of a tour of my library. I hope that you have enjoyed this. I will see you in the next one. Bye!